Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today, in honor of Pride Month, I would like to speak about the topic of homosexuality. First, I want to state that I will not allow hateful comments on this video. Everybody is welcome to express their thoughts respectfully without name-calling and insults. And yes, accusing someone of being a sinner because of the way they were born is unacceptable on this channel. Second, I want to state unequivocally that I am in support of the LGBTQ plus community. You are welcome here. I need only my own conscience and inner guidance to tell me that loving my neighbor is right, and intolerance and condemnation of people for who they are is wrong. Because I also do not believe that the Bible, when it is properly understood, condemns homosexuality. Later in this series, I will address these specific Bible passages that are often used to condemn it and reframe them within what I believe is their proper contextual understanding. However, that will not be the focus of this video. This video will deal primarily with whether homosexuality is a sin in a general sense, not just according to the Bible, but according to universal truth. So there's 3 questions that we're going to answer in this video. First, let's begin with, very simply, what is sin? And if we want to use the Bible, we can answer this very easily from a Judeo-Christian perspective. Sin is breaking God's law. Also, from a Christian perspective, Jesus is the final authority. And it just so happens that there's this amazing and well-known passage in the book of Matthew where Jesus sums up for us exactly what God's law is. Matthew 22:34 through 40. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments." Jesus very clearly states what the sum of God's law is, but not just God's law, the entire scriptural text. This means that you can't use Moses or Paul to overturn Jesus here. You can't put any other Bible passage on the same level as this statement from Jesus. This passage is the pinnacle of the Bible, and everything else builds up to this statement. The sum of all that God requires of us is this: love God, love yourself, love your neighbor. That is God's law. God's law can be summed up very simply with one word: love. So it follows that to break God's law would be to fail to love in any given situation. Right and wrong are very simple. What is right is to love. What is wrong is not to love. Sin simply means a failure to love. Now, I argue this from a Christian perspective using the Bible as my source. But before we go further into the question of whether homosexuality is a sin according to the law of love, I'd like to answer a second question. Is the Bible the only place we find this law of love? The reason why I think this question is important is because truth, in order to be truth, it must be universal. Truth must be self-evident and accessible to everybody. Truth is way too foundational to reality to be found only in one book. The Bible itself states that it is possible to know God simply through observing the natural world. That those who study the scriptures the most carefully can miss the truth. That it is the Holy Spirit, not the Bible, that guides us into all truth, and the Holy Spirit is within us, that we each have a conscience that tells us right from wrong, and that we have the law of God written on our own hearts. If this is the case, and if the law of love presented by Jesus in the book of Matthew is actually the truth, then it should be universal. It should be easily discoverable, easily knowable. It should be something that is innate within us. And because of this, it should pop up over and over again, no matter which religion or worldview you study. Let me read a few quotes for you. From Hinduism, "This is the sum of duty. Do not unto others that which would cause pain if done to you." From Confucianism, Zigong, a disciple of Confucius, asked, "Is there any one word that could guide a person throughout life?" The master replied, "How about reciprocity? Never impose on others what you would not choose for yourself." From Shintoism, "Be charitable to all beings. Love is the representation of God." From Taoism, "Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss." From Zoroastrianism, "Whatever is disagreeable to yourself, do not do unto others." From Scientology, "Try not to do things to others that you would not like them to do to you. Try to treat others as you would want them to treat you." From Wicca, "Do what you will, so long as it harms none." Also from Wicca, "I command you thus, O children of the earth, that which you deem harmful unto yourself, the very same shall you be forbidden from doing unto another. For violence and hatred give rise to the same. My command is thus, that you shall return all violence and hatred with peacefulness and love. For my law is love unto all things." So that's just a very brief representation of the underlying truth that is foundational to our reality. Treating others as we would like to be treated. Loving people as if they were us. This is the sum of the law. This is what God requires of us. And not doing this could be defined as sin. What makes something wrong is that it is an unloving act. With that in mind, let's proceed to our third and final question. Is homosexuality a sin? What makes something sin is the intent or motive to harm. Intent to harm makes something wrong. Intent to love makes something right. For instance, lying could be right or wrong depending on the situation. It was not wrong for those in Nazi Germany to lie and hide Jews in their homes, or for those in the Underground Railroad to lie and help slaves escape. It's not even wrong to lie to keep a surprise secret from a loved one. On the other hand, if you're keeping secrets that will hurt a relationship or seeking to manipulate somebody, if there's intention to deceive for personal gain, these are the things that make lying wrong. Another more extreme example, most people would agree that it is murder, a premeditated, intentional act that is wrong. Most would not argue that, say, self-defense is wrong, or a tragic death that happens in a car accident that's completely outside of somebody's control. NDE accounts really bring this aspect to life. Oftentimes in their life reviews, people are really surprised to discover that it was the small, calloused, insensitive actions that caused the most harm. And the bigger sins in their life, though things that they thought God would surely condemn them for, God looked upon with understanding because they had good intent. This is how you can tell if anything is a sin. It is incredibly simple. Are you fueled by love, or are you fueled by a selfish desire? So back to the question, is homosexuality a sin? I want to look at this from a couple of angles. First, is it wrong to be a homosexual, to be born as a gay or lesbian person? And second, is the act of homosexuality a sin? First, it is not any more wrong to be born gay, lesbian, bi, trans, or anything else than it is to be born male or female, black, brown, or white. The way that we are created is perfectly designed by our Creator. Some people will say, well, we're all born sinners, so being born gay isn't different than being born with a tendency to lie or with a temper problem. You can overcome a tendency to lie. You can overcome a temper problem. You cannot change your skin color or your sexual orientation. It's part of who you are and the way that you are wired. And to call somebody a sinner for the way that they were born, that is actually the sin. Also, I would just like to state that I fundamentally disagree with the notion that we are all born sinners. Do we all sin if we're defining sin as lack of love, breaking God's law, even making mistakes? Yes, of course we do. We are not our body, our mind, our ego, or our mental and emotional conditioning. We are perfect and glorious eternal spirits that have come here to experience limitation and lack for the growth opportunity that provides. Telling anybody that they are innately a sinner because of who they are is unhealthy, it is damaging, and it causes a lot of emotional trauma and baggage. Now on to the second half of the question. Is the act of homosexuality a sin? And just like with anything else, whether or not homosexuality is a sin has to do with the heart intent. Homosexuality, just like heterosexuality, is wrong if somebody is being used, abused, raped, controlled, manipulated, or hurt in any way. Homosexuality is not wrong in a loving relationship where the free will of both individuals is honored and respected. On the other hand, believing in your own heart and your own mind that gay people are sinners and homosexuality is wrong is probably not hurting anybody. But as soon as you take those beliefs and start pushing them on other people, whether through legislating what they can and cannot do, or through vocally opposing people's abilities to live their lives and pursue happiness in the same way that you would like to, that is inhibition of somebody else's free will. It causes unnecessary hurt and pain. Suppressing people, controlling their ability to live their life, legislating their rights, making things difficult for them just because you do not agree with the way that God designed them, that is a sin, my friend. That is wrong. Religion, as usual, has overcomplicated and made a huge mess of things by labeling an entire people group as sinners and making it good and right and just to try to legislate these people and suppress these people and take away their free will and their ability to live their lives. But we do not have to get lost in this maze of confusion. The truth is simple and universal and easily understandable. The guiding light is always love. What causes harm is a sin. What is loving is always right. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.